Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's All You Can Geek Gamecast, episode 429. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Gast, joined by Mike Sneedy.
What's up?
Corey Feinside.
I'm here. Let's do this.
And Tony Korkanakis.
Yosh.
What's up, guys? Welcome, listeners. Welcome, viewers. Man, I've done that 429 times. That's all right.
More actually with the spoiler.
I figure I'm averaging because I'm not on every podcast. Sometimes I miss some, so it's an average. So yeah, and well, anyways, this is the of the year edition for us. So this is our best of 2018. Now we don't do this in 2018 because we'd like to give ourselves that little extra time for Christmas gifts.
You don't always get those extra days to play before stuff comes out and things like that.
So let's get into this because I think we're gonna have some discussions with this one. Yep. So I'd like to kick this off with disappointment. And would you like me to go first, or would you guys like to kill Red Dead?
No, I'm not going to put Red Dead on there. Don't worry.
Okay. I'll kill Red Dead.
All right,
I'll
Tony,
tell this right now.
Tony, go ahead.
Fuck that game. Fuck Red Dead Redemption 2. Here's the thing. I wasn't even anticipating that game. I didn't even care. I had no intentions of getting it right away. I was like, oh, maybe there's a deal or whatever. And then, GameStop / Microsoft had this promotion that I double dipped because they each had a promotion going on.
Well, they paid you to get this game.
Right. I understand. They paid me to take this game. They literally paid me to take this. Please.
And it makes your most
get it out of our store. Yes, because I was like, oh, all right, well, cool. This will be my first new gen game on my Xbox One X, brand new, and stuff like that. And look, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of things to admire and be amazed at in this game, from the graphics, the quality of the characters, the writing, the storytelling, the voice acting, all that stuff.
Yeah.
The open, the world itself, one of the most realistic games worlds I've ever seen.
It's a great horse simulator.
Yeah, absolutely. All that stuff is great. But as a game, when you break any of its components down to yes, you are pressing buttons and the joysticks and making a character do things. It is one of the most offensive things I've ever played in terms of you think about how much money went into this video game, hundreds of millions of dollars over 7 years, blood, sweat, and tears poured into this thing. And it's you come out with this piece of shit that just controls so fucking horribly.
It's the Rockstar system. I mean, their system is antiquated because they started building us on that, and it's just
but
if you look at GTA, I mean, it controls like shit.
But again, think about how many hundreds of developers contributed to this game. Obviously, not all of them went to the controls and stuff like that. But think about all the hundreds of QA.
I heard that
here's the thing, though. They
prioritized all of their subsidiaries, and everyone was working on this game to get it past the finish line.
And what they did, though, they prioritized animations and an open world, making it active and alive. And they didn't care about these things because they knew that they could get away with it being good enough. And the thing is, they did, because critical acclaim, huge money. Most people will say this game is great, so they did it.
And that's fine. I mean, I can understand how an average person, and I don't want to seem snobby or elitist, but
that's exactly
but I can understand how the average Joe or the average Jane picks up this game and is oh yeah, you know what, I'm having fun. For me though, when it's it takes me 5 minutes to loot a fucking place while the NPC is yelling at me, hurry up, and it's bro, I wish I could hurry up. I wish I could just loot this whole fucking house with 3 clicks of a button, but you make me hold the fucking button down so Arthur could pick it up and look at it like a fucking dumbass before putting it in his pockets. Bro, we gotta go. This house is burning down. What the fuck are you doing?
It should be snatch in the pockets. Yeah.
Just between that and the way the controls work,
it's just a matter of time and respect, and they don't
exactly
do that.
They took a 30-hour game and they made it 80 because of your time.
Yeah, not to mention that, but who the fuck thought it was a good idea to the way that the shoulder buttons work by default, and I don't remember now because it's been so long that I've played it, but you target an NPC and then to talk to them is one of the trigger buttons, where it's I don't think I've talked to a single person who has not shot a person on accident.
Oh, I definitely accidentally. I've screwed up many quest lines due to the fact that they ran away from me afterwards.
Mm-hmm. I actually I did that too, and I actually thought I was cheesing, because I was in a video game, I thought. But I died to a wolf that comes out of nowhere. And then I saw the wolf beforehand while doing the mission over again. So I pull my gun to shoot this wolf, and the NPC with me freaks out, runs away. That mission is over. and I can't do it again.
Yeah, well, that happened to me
remember that you're a game.
It happened to me with I'm riding with a guy and I'm like, oh, I have to drop this stuff off of this house around the corner. Let me just run over there real quick. I'll drop the stuff off because it's right here. I don't have to come because the way the horse riding works, it takes hours. So I'm like, I'm already out here. Let me just swing by. So I took a left. He took a right. Mission failure. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me?
That's the other thing.
There's a huge disconnect between this great open world, and I think the open world, honestly, is one of the best made. There's a huge disconnect between that and how the game wants you to like play in it in such a very defined, straightforward way, where like the deviation, like
right, they call it an open world, but really you can't.
The missions aren't
things openly.
Right, exactly.
Open world mission, which is I think where the game actually feels better when you just go around and just do things on your own. But that's also not where the great story is. So there's a big disconnect that this game has going on.
Yeah, we talk about it. I can still continue talking about it. Like to me, last thing I'll say is about it. Like the fact that there were so many reviews. I mean, this is one of the highest reviewed games of the generation, if not of all time. It's again, don't get me wrong. I can see all the scores for graphics, audio design, etc. But like the fact that I didn't read a lot of the reviews because again, I wasn't really caring for this game. I didn't play the first one, but like the fact that it didn't seem like any of them at all really talked about like, by the way, guys, this game controls like shit and it doesn't respect your time. Because like the fact that if any of these issues existed in any other AAA, like
they would have slammed it.
Cream of the crop, it would have got slammed. Like, can you imagine? Like, why the fuck
I don't know.
control like shit?
Naughty Dog would have gotten away with it too.
Maybe whatever. But it's just like, what the fuck? Like, how the fuck does nobody want to talk about this elephant in the room? And to me, it's just like the last time I gave Rockstar a chance was Grand Theft Auto 4 on 360, and again, it was one of those things where you so highly, I was like, well, shit, I got to get this game. It's like, you know what?
Tens everywhere.
Fooled me once, shame on you. Fooled me twice, shame on me. So I'm done with Rockstar.
My list is going to be interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, what's your most disappointing, Mike?
Well, my disappointment, I kind of liked all the games I've played this year, so I'm going to go with a little...
It's not like... doesn't mean you hate it.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. No, I'm going to go with the DLC for Spider-Man.
No, I
heard that was really just totally not worth the money.
This is like on the other end of the spectrum of what we were talking about. The minute to minute, the action, the great gameplay from that game is still there, and it feels great. The problem is it's still kind of the same stuff you've done. The story isn't furthered in a way you want it to be furthered, and it just runs out real quick, and it's just not worth like
it's not enough time.
Price tag.
It doesn't respect your time enough. It doesn't give you enough time to respect your time.
Enough time to really like take it in and like feel it enough. Like it's just so fleeting. So it was a bit of a disappointment to me.
Yeah,
that's fair.
All right. Mine was Mine was back and forth, Tony. Red Dead and my game. My game is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Because Red Dead, I would actually ranked on my of the year list because while there are so many gripes of that game, I enjoyed the character and I enjoyed the story and I finished through the game.
Well, did you have more than 5 new games you played this year?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I got the list. No. Well, yes and no. There were games that I played this year that weren't out this year, but I'm saying that it also was not. It wasn't like number 4 or number 5 on my list. It's in my top, 3 on my list. But Shadow of the Tomb Raider won't even make my list, and I'm a huge reboot of this series. Like I talk about this, I think every podcast when they have the new one come out. I mentioned this like crazy how much I enjoyed the first 2 games.
Support Tomb Raider.
Yeah, this game does not need your support. It doesn't need to be played. It doesn't. It's gone backwards. Yeah, and I actually read about what happened. I wanted to know what happened to this game. So I didn't know they handed this off to a B team. This is they Batman Arkham Origin this damn thing, and I didn't realize they did that. Really? I did not know they did this. This was not the A team.
What's the A team doing?
Avengers? They're working on. I think they're working on Avengers. So I think everybody's working on that right now. I think that's why. So this is a B team, and it makes so much sense because this game is worse than 1 and 2. It's gone way back. And it was blah. It was blah. I was like, ugh. I just wanted to get it over with, just because I played the other 2 games. So ultimately, this is my decision.
Yeah, I didn't even play the second one, but it's just like to me, it sounds like they couldn't even like end because I assume this is the last of the trilogy. I don't think we're getting
I don't think we're getting it.
Just like it's like how do you start at the top and then just keep getting worse. You know, it's like
Yeah,
sequels should be.
The first two games were hurt because Square's expectations of sales were way too high.
Right.
This game was hurt because it's a shitty game.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, it just it was disappointing, and ultimately my camera went out of focus. Thank you, camera. Ultimately, it beat Red Dead out because while Red Dead was expected to be, I wasn't certain if one game would beat that. I'm shocked two games beat that, but it wasn't as disappointing as Tomb Raider for me.
Well, you played the entire thing too, and that's a long game. Yeah.
I played the entire thing of all of these. All these games I played through entirely. So, no cheap shots, no Ni no Kuni on my list. So, but I did play a lot of mediocre games this year, and that's why I was like, again, like I'm like, I don't want to put this on my list. I don't want to make just because default. I don't want to make my list. But I almost listed 4 because I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not putting a 5th game on there that doesn't deserve to be there. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I wouldn't have done it. So, but I played some new stuff recently that makes the list. But Corey, what's your most disappointing?
Sea of Thieves for me.
Okay, and I completely get that. Yeah,
I feel like there was a lot riding on this game for Rare.
For Rare,
and for Microsoft.
Microsoft, in general.
And it's like they wanted this game to be like this social thing that everybody was going to watch Twitch players be on there, and like it's just going to be this big social thing that everybody was going to be a part of, and that you could go and have these adventures with other people and like all that stuff. And while the game I think is fantastic looking and it plays fine too, it's just dead. There's like nothing to do in this game, and that is the worst thing you can have.
There's no
for
content.
A game that's meant to just be this like social experiment with all these people playing it at the same time. You really are just like, they wanted you to be a pirate with like your pirate crew, but there's nothing to really pirate. Like this, like you need to have ships out on sea to like try to pirate these people. Like you can't be a pirate.
Yeah.
So
and there's really no progress. Like you can get a different looking gun, but it's the same gun, and it doesn't do anything different.
It's just very bland, and I was excited for it too. I was really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it doesn't have the loot system. Like there's just nothing there. Like even
you know me, there's grinding. I'm all about grinding.
Yeah,
it's just
you want the loot, man. You want that Borderlands loot.
Yep, this is not there. So I have to throw it to Sea of Thieves.
Do you think that this is not the end?
I pre-ordered that game too.
Conversation here, but would Rare have been shut down if they didn't have Game Pass going because of this game? It would have bombed, right?
No.
It's hard to say because I think at the very least, I think Microsoft does value Rare in terms of at least being able to produce content. Sure. Regardless of the quality, they can produce
and they also did all of the avatars and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. They have they are a studio that fulfills a lot of Microsoft gaps right now in terms of hey, we need they're the only ones that are making family friendly type games in my opinion.
Sure.
Outside of Forza Racing, because that's
they have IPs that they're not using right now, but it's just
exactly.
This game would have bombed.
They're just being misled, right? Yeah. So hopefully, maybe Spencer can turn it around with them. Be like,
what
do you want? Right?
That's what sold well enough to make NPD.
But I think that's what they did with this game. Didn't they ask Rare, "What do you guys want to make?" And this is it, isn't it?
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I believe this is the game they wanted to make. It's just again, it's a very cool looking game, and the high concept that it has is it's neat. I think that it could work if you gave the players something else to do. You just run through the content so quickly. You're done within a couple days. Yeah. Unless you want to grind out for that master pirate
Spider-Man DLC.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
That's all right. Let's move on though.
Yeah, let's go to surprise. I'm gonna list mine. Tony, go ahead. You go first though. I was gonna list mine, and I think I'm gonna agree with you on this one. Go ahead.
My surprise was Hollow Knight. Just because
I'm not going to agree with you.
No, that's fine. I mean, I could have gone different ways, but when I thought about Hollow Knight released last year 2017 on PC, and everybody had touted it as this amazing indie. It was revered. It was wow. It was a 2 or 3 man studio, Team Cherry. It was their first game ever. A Kickstarter darling. This, that, and the other thing. And I got bit by Mighty Number 9. I was I square off that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I was there's no way this game is going to be that good. And then they just dropped it on the Switch, and I was well, you know what? All right, I'll give this a chance. I like Metroidvania type games. People talk about its difficulty, and it was just one of those things where it's damn, this game actually lives up to the hype. And stuff like that. And it's just an awesome experience.
Yeah. Yeah, mine would be God of War for surprise. Considering the fact that I would never have played this game at all if I had not heard what I heard about it, and then also considering that it's being in my head was being considered for Game of the Year, it has to be my biggest surprise of the year.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's just
absolutely.
I am shocked that this is as good as it is. I'm shocked that because I don't like God of War, and I like this game a lot. It's very good, and everybody should play this game if you have a PS4. Like it's so good. You can play it from all different genre likes. You would like this game, I think. It kind of spans RPGs, action games. Geez, now I've lost my train where I was going with it. But yeah, you can play. A lot of people can play the different.
It's kind of an open world game too.
Yep, open world. Thank you. And once you get to the lake, but yeah, it was great. So that was I'm sure we'll talk more about God of War. So getting into the lists, this is our best of top 5 that we played this year.
Wait,
you do my surprise.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. And I did get Corey.
Yeah.
Nope.
Fuck you guys.
I'll do it quick because I was considering God of War as my surprise for the same reasons as well. But then I remember something else happened this year that was a bigger surprise for me personally. That was exciting, but it's not really a game. And that's the Turtles and Injustice 2. That was my biggest surprise of this year.
That's fair. It's DLC. It counts. Counts. It counts.
Yeah. So that was real cool. And obviously that was like mind blowing for me. So because it's just like two of my favorite things thrown together.
Was it announced this year?
Yeah,
because it was.
I don't know if it was
January. No, I think it was January.
This year.
I'm pretty certain it came out. That news came out in January.
Yeah.
So
it was.
It's been a while. I just was curious.
I know. So that was real cool.
Yeah,
so big surprise. Like a surprise you don't often get, honestly, in the video game world. Where we over report everything and we know everything that's coming. So that was real cool to have like a legitimate surprise like that.
I got Injustice 2, but you can see it's still sealed, and I bought this last year.
That's not the Legendary Edition either, Jim.
No,
I got by Turtles.
No,
I mean, I still remember that moment. It was really because it was a fighting game tournament they announced that. But like I remember, like okay, like I don't particularly care Injustice.
And I remember you posted a trailer and it
was one of the things because like I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like the Ninja Turtles a lot, but I'm not like a super fan like you are. But it was one of those things where like I was like, holy shit, this is so crazy, this is awesome. And I was like, damn, like I gotta break this news to Mike, and I like posted the link and it previewed like spoiled like with the thumbnail. I was like, fuck, like shit, like don't do that. I was just like, Mike, just look up this trailer. Don't look at the thumbnambell. Just play it. Just play it.
I like that trailer too because you're like, whatever. I don't care about.
Can we start off with like what fucking
Enchantress
Enchantress.
It's like
yeah.
And then it's like, oh shit, here they come.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That was good.
All right, Corey, your surprise?
My surprise is going to be a Nintendo game.
Ooh.
It is Dragalia Lost on my phone.
I knew it.
Wow.
I knew.
I still play this game.
I downloaded it and I never even opened it yet. It's on my phone, but thanks to your recommendation, I downloaded it. But
I don't know. I just like it's a really good design for a mobile game. Like it kind of scratches a Diablo itch a little bit, and I'm actually excited for Immortal now. But it has like a little dungeony crawly thing going on. Like obviously, you're getting heroes, collecting. You can craft weapons. You can get these dragons. You have these cards that help stuff. It is a little frustrating sometimes because they do make it tough to get the really good characters. But in this game, you don't necessarily need them to they're just more flash than like actual usefulness a lot of times. But they've been like adding content like consistently every few weeks. There's like an event, and those events last until like a few days before the next event. So there's always new and fresh content coming out. So that's like I have to hand it to them. There's always a reason to get back into it. They did a great job with the holidays. They had an event for that and gave you a bunch of the stuff, the materials you need that you would be buying, with real money to purchase stuff within the game. So they gave you a bunch of that for the holidays, and then for the New Year's they gave you a whole bunch more. And then they just gave away a ton of like free summons. So they were just like making it very easy for me to just like get in and like get out and have a good time with it.
It wasn't a predatory experience.
Right, absolutely. And like I don't feel like I necessarily need to spend money in this game to have fun, but I did throw them like $10 for one of their things just because I was having so much fun with it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool. All right, now we can get into our top 5 lists. Best of list. Let's kick it off, Tony. Number 5.
Mine was Celeste. So
nice.
a game came out about this time last year, actually.
I didn't get to play enough of it. I just wanted those out there before you talk on
Sure.
this. I did play it on the Xbox, and like I have to say, like that game is beautiful. Like it is one of the most beautiful, like well done. And I didn't realize it was gonna have different art styles, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like it's so beautiful, and it's fucking brutal though.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing. Is like, for me, again, this was a game where like, people were just talking about it. I was like, okay, and I watched videos, and it's like, oh, these are some of the guys that made Towerfall, or the team that did Towerfall.
And that's the only reason it was on my radar too, because I love Towerfall, and I was like, oh, this game looks pretty interesting. But then,
and it's so cool because like, all right, I mean, just from visual, it's really pretty. The soundtrack is fantastic. I mean, if you haven't listened to, at least do yourself a favor and go and listen to the soundtrack. It's available on Spotify and.
You can just start that game, leave it running, and like enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. But the game is just this brutal platformer, and like you said, it is challenging. But it's one of those things where it's like an old school, in my opinion, Nintendo game where like you start off and it's like, here are the rules, and it's like, okay, shit, this is kind of tough because you're demanding me to be very precise with platforming, jumping, grabbing, etc., timing, all that stuff. But then they're like, okay, and just as soon as you get that grasp of it, they're like, okay, you're done with that world. Now here's that world. Here's all that stuff that we taught you. Now we're going to throw like a wrench in the mix. Now here's like an extra thing that allows you to jump. And it's like, oh, like, and it just gradually gets, better and better. And despite that, there's actually a really beautifully told story, but not like kind of like in your face thing about it. And I don't want to spoil it because it is really one of those things that's just awesome to discover as you go along. But it's just like one of the things like, damn, like I was just expecting this like cute little indie game that's tough as nails, but it's like it was something that was way more than I expected. So
cool. Number 5 for me is Into the Breach.
All right.
Wow,
okay, so
far into it.
yeah, I have not stopped. Okay, so it was hilarious. Because last week, Tony and you and I were talking about the fact that like, it was nice, it was cool, but I was playing like Dead Cells. I really like the style of Dead Cells, but for some reason, every time I pick up my Switch, that's the game I go Into the Breach, and I just, you can play the battles are so short and quick that I can take a break. It's a perfect like, well, Dead Cells can be same thing, but it's a perfect pick up and stop for work for me to take a break and reset myself. It's like
you just like one map or whatever, and like
like I can legitimately do this at work and give myself a breather to reset my brain and then go back to work, and it works because it's like a brain teaser. Like the game, like it's fantastic. I think if I gave this game more time, it might be even farther up on my list because I finished the game and it was eventful-ish, but I felt like I finished the game on easy now. I brought the difficulty back up to medium, to normal. So now the real game begins, as they say.
The real challenge can do it.
But because the game is brutal, but it's something because that's my style of game. Strategy games, I love the strategy games. And
XCOM.
Once I get that hook, it's in me, and like this has that. Yep. I just wish this was more like Dead Cells, where it would carry more things over when you died.
That's
all. Yeah.
Well, it just missed my list, but I agree. If it was just had that bit more of like the progression hook, I totally would have done it. But it's like one of the things where like, whatever. But it's
just had that. Yeah. If it just had that, but yeah, it's great. I just like the shortness of it. Granted, sometimes one turns into 4 battles, but and then if I wipe, then it turns into a massive wipe fest where I'm just like, how were these people living this way?
The one thing I really say is like, for those of you who don't know, it is like it looks like a chessboard kind of. It's a grid based system, but the hook, like the mechanic of the game is that what all the enemies are going to be doing, like their actions, like the range. There's no surprise, like exactly how much damage it's going to do.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Everything you need to know, you have that knowledge before.
The exception of what's spawning next.
Right, that's it. But aside from that, it's just one of those like, so everything, and your entire turn is just to like how to counter that, how to save your characters, how to save the city, et cetera, while accomplishing your goals. So like really, when stuff happens, it's entirely your own fucking fault.
At the same time, you could like basically breeze through a map, but like you'd be destroying everything, and people will be dying, and you're like, fuck, damn it! Like I can get through this, but I'm gonna destroy this building.
That's how I beat the game. I learned.
You gotta,
no. I learned the trick of because the actual
The
end
trick
game
is to not care about people, Jim. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. So yes. Okay. Yes, in a way. So the actual end game is easier than the game. Like
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. So but like the game at one point, I was stockpiling energy to the point where I'm like I was full and I had defense bonus, and I'm like looking at the map. And I'm like I had to do this for an objective to get the star, to get more bonuses, to get the pot. And I'm like, you know what? That guy is expendable here. This building, they are expendable.
Yeah, sorry, that building, you guys are expendable.
To make the 1 star, I had to kill 5 enemies, and I'm like,
What's
the building.
funny is I played playing this game, and I watched Pacific Rim after because I was like, I need some more of this shit.
There was a guy. One of the enemies was right in front of the building. Was going to attack it anyways, and I had one last turn to kill one enemy, and I'm like, he had like one hit, and I had my pusher, my mech thing that can push. So I'm like. Yep. Well, I know that's going to kill him. It will kill who's ever in the building, but I'll get the star. So I'm like, and I'm looking at my energy. I'm like, I need this star. So I pushed him into the building and I killed everybody. And yeah.
Yeah, and much like Celeste, like where like they took the foundation of the previous game, which was Towerfall. Developers behind Through the Breach or into the breach. Through the breach.
Oh, guys.
Into the breach. They took what they knew from FTL because that game, like what I love about FTL is like there's awesome meme where it's like the first 5 minutes it's like it's a picture of like a dog at a computer with a headset. It's like I don't know what I'm doing, and it's like a half hour of playing FTL, and it's like it shows Captain or General Amada from Battlestar Galactica on the bridge, and it's like I'm like an admiral now of like a space fleet, and it's like after a few hours of playing FTL, just like the Minority Report, like people are just like flying like out of the thing. It's like shit's going down because like that is literally what it is. And kind of like that was like once you understand like the rules, the mechanics, and how all the characters work, like you see this thing. Whereas like if you play that map in the first 10 minutes, you've been like, this is fucking impossible. What are you talking about? Yeah. But like once it clicks, and you're like, man. You're like,
I see everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
that's
the numbers. And
I can see that playthrough. When I just did the playthrough just before, and I finished the whole game, and I'm like. Everything I was doing,
You're a master builder now, Jim.
Everything I was doing was like, okay, he's going here, he's going here, he's going to kill this guy, but I don't worry about that. I'm like, oh, he's going to kill this pilot that I have. I'm like, his bonuses aren't that good anyway. So I'm like, okay, so I'm like, everything was calculated in my head. I knew what was going on because you do know. That's what's amazing about that game. So, anyways, that was my number 5. Mike.
Okay. Wow.
Sorry. Didn't mean to get into Breach that much, but go on.
My number 5 is going to be Soul Calibur 6.
Oh, nice.
One of my newer games that I just started playing, and it's pretty good. It's not that high on this list because it's very similar to the last Soul Calibur. Actually, what is new though is that they have a couple more single player modes, which is important to me, because I don't really play this type of game online too often. But you have a sort of light RPG style adventure mode that's very similar to another games coming up. And you also have a mode where there's a typical arcade mode, but there's also a story that's all written together for like each character as well, sort of a story like arcade mode, which is pretty cool. And the character creation is also real fun, and it gives you something to come back to. And I just wish you could search for things when you like try to like download other people's creations, but you can't. You just sort of awkwardly scroll through some awful loading screens. I really wish they would fix that, but other than that,
there might be a way to do it where you can just go to a website and then just send it to your console or something. I have to look into it, but I agree, like because I've seen some really cool stuff online where I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then I get one and I want to just keep scrolling through to see where I was, and I'm back at the beginning.
Yeah. I'm like, it was like a Berserk that I saw. I was like, oh shit, is that a real actual Berserk? Like, is that Guts from Berserk? And I was like, oh no, it's somebody.
There's
just made
also a lot of lizard men with big penises.
Yes, there's a lot of that I saw.
Corey, that's cool. It's good.
Corey, what's your number 5?
I kind of cheated here a little bit because this is the second most played game on my list in 2018. Yes. So, no, it is. Xenoblade Chronicles.
The DLC is what you
not
want?
The DLC, the game, because it came out late in 17.
I could have rolled in, but I could have rolled in a game from last year and I didn't do it. But go on.
Not you, Jim.
Okay. Okay.
It's that. So yeah, I wanted to throw it out there. That's nothing else really would have made the list here in this spot. So I wanted to throw that out because that game has been the second most played game I have this year.
Did you beat it yet?
What?
Did you beat it yet?
No, not yet.
Wow, Jesus,
there's so much to do.
All right, Tony, number 4.
Number 4, Dead Cells. So Dead Cells, again, it's just one of those things where like, and this is what I love about indie games because, you know, as opposed to like Reddit, I don't want to get into Reddit, but you know, we're just trying to do all these things, you know, and it's like from mini games, riding horses, hunting, blah, 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 camp, et cetera, et cetera. Like what I love about these indie games is like, they just want to do one thing and they just want to do it really, really well. So it's just like, that's it. So Dead Cells is just this like roguelike 2D action platformer. And it just so awesome in the sense that like, again, like your first playthrough, you're like, oh shit, this game is hard. And then you can play a little bit more and you get better and you progress and then you unlock more stuff and you get better and then you reach a wall. And it's just, the progression system is just so great because like every time you unlock a new area, you're like, holy shit, like this is an accomplishment. I beat that boss. Holy shit, that's an accomplishment. Because every time you die, you have to start completely over, barring the exceptions of like unlocks and whatnot. But it's just so awesome because you literally are in control of every aspect of your character in terms of like, this is my build. This is what I want to go for. I want to go for damage. I want to go for defense. I want to do like a utility type, or I just want to get up in your face. I can play ranged. It's just really awesome. And it's so easy to pick up and play and just continue on. And just one of those things that no matter, even if you fail, you still have some progression there. So it's just really addicting.
Yeah, it was. My number 4 was a game that came out in, I don't even know, PlayStation 2. Shadow of the Colossus.
Crash Bandicoot or Spyro?
Shadow of the Colossus. So, yeah, I think it took me forever to play this game. It's my first playthrough of the game. So
wow, really?
Yes. So this is why I can make my list. This is how I justified it.
No, it was a 2018 release. It was valid.
2018, and it's excellent. I cannot believe it took this long for me to play this game. It was so much fun, and I really enjoyed the ending. I really enjoyed that ending actually a lot. I thought it was really cool. I actually loved all of it, the whole aspect.
I was a little surprised with the ending because you hate.
Yeah, I thought you would have hated that ending, dude.
I always tell you,
hated that ending. I hated that.
I always tell you, Corey, if it's done right, I like it. And I think that was done right. And so I know what you're saying, but
you hated Cowboy Bebop's ending.
Yeah, I still hate that ending. I hate that ending.
Anyways,
but that was my number 4. So great game.
Fantastic game. Yep.
All right, Mike, what's your number? Wait, are we number 3 now?
Yeah, number 3.
No, I haven't done 4 yet.
4. Yeah.
We reversed the order here, so
yeah.
This is why it's throwing me off. Yeah.
My number 4 is Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, again, another game I'm still pretty early in because I've only had it for a few weeks. But you know, I'm a big Smash Brothers fan, although I was a little disappointed with the last 1 or 2 outings. But this one, just the fact that there's so many things to unlock, so much stuff. And there's so much to do, all these references to mostly games I don't even know, which is weird. There's just so much going on. The World of Light thing is a little grindy, but it's also interesting. It's a good thing to do by yourself. And I don't know, it's just fun to unlock everything and have all these characters, even though I don't have them all yet, but I will.
Cool.
So it's just a challenge, and I'm gonna go through it.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Corey, number 4.
My number 4 is Destiny Forsaken. That they fixed that game.
They tied it all together.
They fixed it. I mean, yeah, it's
their Take of King.
It is. It's fantastic. It's the best Destiny's been, and what they're doing with the content now is really good. I feel like there's too much for me to keep up with at the moment, actually. So yeah, it's just I have to hand it to Bungie. I got it right this time, which
I honestly think
I have to wait.
Gave a hand to Bungie.
I have to give. Yeah, I honestly think that this separation, which we'll talk about next week on the podcast, is going to help them with the next game. I think it will, if they want to do it, because they have their IP still. I think it's going to help
for next week because I want to talk about it too.
Yes, I'm sure. All right, Tony, what's your number 3? Now we're getting into the 3s.
So here's my surprise came in. Hollow Knight was just number 3. It came out at a perfect time where like there was just not a lot of other stuff coming out in terms of like to draw my attention away. So it was great because I could dedicate my time to it because despite me liking Metroidvania games a lot, this was super long. I think it was like 30 plus hours, which is ridiculous when you think about it. But it was one of those games where, like, despite that, there was just so much to it. I didn't even do everything in the game, which is really crazy to even think about, but there's still more. They got free DLC updates and stuff, so it's just fantastic. But game's atmosphere is awesome. I mean, it's a testament to this game. So it's a 2D Metroidvania game where all the characters in this are bugs. I fucking hate bugs. Like, I'm actually, they make me squirm and just like, you guys are fucking gross. Get the hell out of here. And this game about bugs, I'm like, oh, like, really, guys? Like, it could have been anything else, and I would have fine. But like, bugs, really? And it's like, here I am. Like, not like all of them are particularly ugly or anything like that, but like, they make him cute. But I'm just like, oh, like, all right, I get it. And just play through the whole game like that. But there are some sections I'm like,
I think I say this every time you mention the bug thing. It's just, but it's fun. I think it's really interesting. Is like because it is such a small team, an indie team. They're like, what's the easiest thing to draw? Bugs. So like, make this game out of bugs.
Yeah. But
you know, to draw.
Yeah, the things I really loved about it was like minimalistic story. It's one of those things where you actually, I would say, yeah, it's one of those games where you have to go online.
Well, it's simplistic. Like,
yeah,
it's just like get from point A to point B. Essentially, is what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
and but then it's like little things here and there that make it interesting.
Yeah, it was really challenging though, and honestly, like the last boss in that game is probably one of the most challenging bosses I've ever faced in any video game. Where I almost pulled Mike, where I'm just like, "Fuck this controller!" Just like, get the fuck out of my life. And we're just like, and I haven't had that feeling in so long. We're just like, where it's like, you just get into the zone where you're just like, okay, this is a hard boss. I know this pattern. I can do this, and you just fuck up, and just like. From there, you get tilted and you can't regain your composure and you die. And just like, like I'm done with this shit. Like, fuck this. But yeah, great game.
Yeah. My number 3 is Red Dead Redemption 2. Ultimately, not my number 1, which I expected it to be this year, but it didn't make that. And again, it's more of a horse simulator than a video game.
Cowboy simulator.
It's a cowboy simulator. But there was two things I want to quickly mention because we talked to this to death on the podcast. So just to mention real quick, the one thing at the end of the game, this is spoilers, where you lose your horse at the end of the game, it dies. My horse had previously just died. So when you have a goodbye ending to this horse, you're like, goodbye, friend. And you're like,
I just got you.
This means nothing to me. So this is where the open world thing it failed at the story. It failed at that story for me at the end. And I think that's kind of like, it would have been more impactful.
There's a game on your list already that has a horse section that's way more impactful.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. So that was way more powerful. It would have been very powerful for me if I'd still had the horse that had just accidentally, thanks to game glitch, died. It game glitched on me. I had horse revives in my persons, but the game literally glitched on me where I couldn't revive the horse.
It doesn't. No, if you wait too long, they'll stay dead forever.
I wasn't trying to wait too long. I was right there, but I couldn't revive it because the game glitched on me. I had to reload the game, and the horse was gone. Anyways, I will mention this game had my favorite moment one of my favorite moments of video games, and especially last year. It had my favorite moment with the group of you guys. There's a point in the game where a kid gets kidnapped, and you basically mount up as a group of 9 of you guys and just outlaws riding to this mansion. And there's this moment where they have a sunset coming down and the 9 of you are walking in a line straight towards the place with guns drawn. And it's just like calling people out.
Image there that goes
it's just, it gives me goosebumps that moment. I'm like, okay, this is where shit's, and then you just go in that place and tear it apart. And it's just brutal, but it's like, this is what you would do if like, the whole point of the beginning part of that game is how much of a family you are. And it's just like, there's a kid that got taken and you're like, come on, a kid. And that's what everybody else, they're all outlaws and they kill people, but they're like, really, a kid? And that's when everybody mounts up and goes. So yeah, it was great. So that it makes my number 3, and it has so many faults. It's not a perfect game. It's not a 9. It's more of like an 8, but it's number 3 on the list. So, all right, Mike.
So I went back and forth actually between my 2 and 3. They're very, very close. But since you just talked about it, I'll make it my 3 as well.
You're changing now. Changing it live. Go on.
On the fly.
Red Dead 2 is my number 3. And it's funny because early in this game I hated it for, all of the control issues, very obscure, obtuse menu systems, and just things being slow. But once I got used to the pace, and once the story, really in the last third, got some real urgency to it, I wasn't a big fan of like the story or the camps until later in the game, where like, oh, okay, now things kind of matter more, and then like it really kicked into a different gear then. And then I got to the point where I could explore the world a little bit, and it is probably my favorite Rockstar game so far, which is surprising because in my mind, I prefer the cityscapes more than this. But this open world had like all these little treasures. You could rob anything. There's hints for like, multiple step treasure maps. You can uncover murderers. All these side activities are great. And this is among the best open world games I've ever played. As far as open world, the only thing is there's the actual gameplay problems. And
yes, it's a single player like story mission.
Oh, and there's a bunch of things that like every now and then it just takes you out of what it's trying to do by like messing up. But
sure,
I put a load of time into it, and it is a resonating sort of story and world that sort of lasts probably in my mind a little bit even beyond my number 2 game, but number 2 just played better.
Okay. All right, Corey, number 3.
My number 3 is Dead Cells.
Nice.
It's one I was really looking forward to the Switch release a lot for, and so when that came out, it's just like perfect fit for the Switch because you can just quickly play around, or you can play for hours. Like it's a game that you can play for like 10 minutes or 90 minutes. It's like really easy just to get lost in it. And like Tony was mentioning earlier, it's like some fantastic side-scrolling. Everything about that game is on you. Obviously, you can get different weapons and builds and stuff that may help in your play style. But again, it's like decisions you make and everything that you're doing is going to be the reason you succeed or fail. And that's very satisfying when you do finally get past a point where you're like, oh man, I haven't gotten this far yet. Yes. And then like, you die and like, oh fuck.
Exactly. Now it's like you made one screen over. It's like, but I still made it one more screen than I did
exactly.
last. Yeah. But
and it's a beautiful game too. Like the art's fantastic.
Charming art style.
It's very nice. Yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about it, and I'll be real brief, but Awesome Games Gone Quick just happened last week, which I always talk about and everything like that because it's for a good cause. But they had a race between 3 players who actively like run this game and stuff like that, and they actually got like the help of like a dozen people or so to like find a like perfect seed. I don't know what that entails, but like they wanted to ensure like a good run and stuff like that. So they found a perfect seed, and that's how you do. You can input the seed code where all 3 people got the same exact, like everything about the game, like the mission structure, the weapons, all that, the shop, everything would be similar. So then it's purely like who has the better strategy, who has the better execution and stuff like that. And it was such an awesome race. I really encourage you to watch it.
I watched some of the Celeste stuff because like
Celeste stuff.
And I love that they comment on it too. The guys like talking about it and stuff, and how he's like, "This is what I'm going to do," and like, they make it look so easy.
So easy. Yeah.
But fantastic game.
Tony, number 2.
My number 2 was Marvel Spider-Man.
Nice.
It's my
I'm
quote for
throw that out there right now. That's not my number 2 as well.
Nice.
Okay, but
my 2 too.
All right. Oh wow. Going to make it a 4-peat, Jim?
No.
Okay, all right. But all right. So I will go out and venture. If for those of you who listen to our movie cast of the year, I would say 2018 was the year of the Spider, because if you're a fan of Spider-Man, you had a fucking amazing year between
the trifecta.
You got it all. You got it all last year, and later on this year too. But the game was just beautiful. From start to finish, I was on board day one. It's like, holy shit, a new like Spider-Man game, because my previous favorite was Spider-Man 2 on the Xbox. Yeah. Just the open world swinging, the mechanics, Spider-Man's one of my favorite characters. And it's like, this is what forced, Batman was what forced Marvel to be like, you know what, you have these characters that people love, but you're just licensing these out to like shitty studios and stuff. Stop that. Like you can make this so much more than it is. And they did it. They worked with Insomniac. Props to them for making such a fantastic game that, it has its flaws, don't get me wrong. And there's some like repetitive nature to it, but like everything that you experience in that game that first time is just magical, in my opinion. Just it makes you feel like you are Spider-Man, and just from moment to moment, the swinging, just the powers, everything, it plays great. It feels good to play.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on it, because that's my number 2 as well, and I think Mike, you said that as well. But
Yeah,
this is the first, like, almost like, obviously you have Batman before it, but like this is like one of the first times like I felt like the world and like fit, like I don't really like open worlds too much because it's just like doesn't I like direction in my games more. I think I just want like I want to go in a direction. I want to kind of have fun along that way. But with an open world, it's like just so many options. Like, what do I do? But like everything that you do there is a lot of fun. Like kept getting sidetracked. We talked about this before, but you get sidetracked all the time. Like go into something, and eventually it's like I got it. Just like put the blinders on and just like focus on going where I'm going. But there's just so much to do, and the world did feel alive. I felt like they did a fantastic job with New York itself and just having it be alive. And the first time you do like swinging through the city chasing a car, it was like one of the best moments in video games.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
what I'm saying, right? Like the first time you see it, you're like, holy shit, that was awesome.
Yeah,
Mike.
Yeah, like they said, like it's just the action moment to moment is real good. And for me though, what makes this like separates it from just like an okay game is the story. Actually is it's a real solid Spider-Man story told in a way that's a little bit different.
There's some shockers at the end there with Aunt May, so it was like,
yeah, for sure.
And some Doc Ocks.
And some Doc Ocks, yeah.
Actually, I think the representation of Shocker in the game might be the weakest villain in the whole game.
Yeah,
that's funny. He's like number one boss fight. It's like, all right, get this out of the way, kind of thing.
But no, it was definitely a cool take on the character, and it worked.
I like the boss fights a lot too. I thought the actual like one of my favorite boss fights was the Scorpion and Vulture fight.
Yeah.
That was like really unique.
The double team one. The double team one. Yeah, I like that. I just was hoping for a little more. My main issue with this game, even like it's a little bit like with the DLC, is I just kind of wish there was a little bit more to it.
There's
just a little bit more variety, a little bit.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of repetitive.
I appreciate the respect of time they give you as well. Like you have options to just turn shit off if you don't want to do it.
I would say it's like the antithesis of Red Dead Redemption 2.
And it's funny because those are the two that flip sort of in my mind, because Red Dead has like this big, like deep, lasting world in my mind, and Spider-Man, like I loved every second of it, but then after a while, I'm like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
So it's I just kind of that's kind of what I view my number one as being a compromise between.
My number one was Spider-Man. I'm also talking about it right now, and because of that, because I did everything in that game. Everything I want, not literally everything, because there's things you don't have to do to get the 100%, but I 100% of that game. And my number 2, God of War, I didn't do that. I played through that one time, and I'm like, that's what I wanted, and I loved it. But Spider-Man, I wanted to play, everything. I wanted to kind of do. It was so fun swinging through the city as Spider-Man. And to finally get a game that's Spider-Man, for me. I mean, again, like I said, my movie list and my game list somehow mirrored each other like very, very closely.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I want to say about Spider-Man is like I loved it in terms that like besides set aside the repetitiveness, where it's like you have to save so many whatever and stop whatever, but like. That is a game, like Jim said, I platinumed that as well. But it's one of those games where like that left me wanting more. It's like, damn, I wish there was more. And yeah, we got more with like Mike with the DLC, but it's like one of those things where like DLC always has. It seems to at least with single player content games, it's always this like, are they really giving us like the cream of the crop of their ideas and their plans, or is it just stuff that like, hey, you know what, this isn't really that strong for the main game. Just pull it out and we'll work on it later for the DLC. Where it's like, eventually I'll probably get the Game of the Year edition or whatever, but like. I'm waiting for Spider-Man 2. Like, absolutely, I cannot wait for Spider-Man 2 to see how much they improve this.
They can improve a lot. There was a lot of like tedious stuff with playing, playing as MJ and stuff like that. But you forget that game is just the game was so good that it looks amazing, and just the music too. The music's a minor part, but like just when you get to the city as Spider-Man starts swinging and the music kicks in, it's just like
that's the first thing they do is like make you start swinging, which is awesome. It's like you've been Spider-Man for a while, the drill here, and like you're just going like straight like right off the bat, you're just right into it.
So that's why it was ultimate in my game.
Like I love that suit.
The different suits were cool for me. Like I could whatever flavor I wanted that day. I'm like, there we go. This is what I want to be. So I did love all that, and the DLC I'm bummed to hear about, but I haven't played, so it doesn't affect my opinion of this game.
It's not like bad, it's just not
Enough.
Yeah. So again, that's what it seems to be everybody's gripe. But yeah, that was my number one. Number two for me, like I mentioned, was God of War. Because that was all your number twos. God of War for me was fantastic and shocking how good that game was. It looked absolutely incredible. Probably the best looking game I think I've played. The game looks amazing. On HDR in my game, looks incredible. And the only problem I had with that game, why it wasn't my number one, was because I felt like I played through the game and I didn't care. I followed the way what's his name, Kratos. How, his name? How he says like the one moment when there was a ghost that appeared up on the balcony and he's like, we don't have time for him. I'm like, you are absolutely right, man.
It's like you're right. Like, we don't have time for Ghost Boy.
Yeah. So I followed that mantra the entire game, and so I didn't do much extra, but I played through it and I loved the story and I loved the Sony formula. As Tony's mentioned as many times, it works very well in this game.
Yeah, I was thinking about it since we mentioned it, but like that's kind of why it didn't make my most anticipated. Like, in terms of like, I was never really a God of War fan. I mean, I like the original a lot, but because it was new at the time. But like, I knew like as soon as they showed off that and was like, oh, you have a boy, and I'm like, yeah, I know what they're doing here. Like,
we know what we're getting.
I got it.
Yeah, that was my number two. Number one, Tony.
So I'll go since I figure Corey and Mike are probably going to talk about the same game. But mine was Smash Brothers Ultimate. And it really came to this is like just pure personal. Like I fucking love this game. Like the single player was meaty. There's a little like grindiness to it because like there's so many fucking fights to do. I'm just like shit. And like, but the thing is like you can save a lot of them to where like you're so completely overpowered. It's like you go back to some of these areas now. I'm just like one-shotting fools left and right. It's like you guys are nothing to me right now. Like I don't even respect you. Like I disrespect your entire house and your lineage. Like fuck you guys, get out of here. But aside from that, like 70 characters, all the characters returning. I think that's unprecedented in terms of like just how much work that is for a fucking fighting game. And like just think about any fighting that you had ever liked, loved, appreciated, and that like from sequel to sequel, it's like, oh, we couldn't bring back all the characters. And you're like, well, fuck, man. Like, Street Fighter 3, that was notorious. Like, they didn't start with a lot of the cast.
But the Scorpion wasn't in that game.
Right, exactly. It's just like, what the fuck? So, like, just that works. The soundtrack, like, fucking over 800 songs and a lot of new composed
those characters as what, like 10 songs for whatever they're from?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And the online, they nailed it. It's not 100% perfect, but it's so much better than it's ever been before. I'm playing it every day, just online, trying to get into the Elite Smash Club. I'm so close right there. But like this is a game I know I'm going to be playing for probably the next 5 until the next Smash Brothers game goes on. And then Sakurai and Nintendo are just continuing to throw even more surprises with the announcement of Joker from Persona 5 as DLC. Or just like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, here's a reasonable list of characters that we would expect. And it's like Joker, like, what the fuck? Like, okay, me personally, I have a bet riding on this kind of stuff. So I'm like, hell yeah. And I like the game and I like Joker. So I'm like, that's awesome. But it's just so crazy seeing like the internet still go wild for like, kind of like, Mike had said with Injustice 2 and the Trolls, like, what? Like, that's ridiculous. And it's like, and I have friends that are just like they're Persona fans and maybe not necessarily Nintendo or Smash Brothers fans, and now like they're on board. They're like, all right, I guess I got Smash Brothers now. Like it's like crazy. Just game is just a love letter to gaming.
Cool. Mike, number one.
All right, so my number one, like I said, is sort of like a mix between good moment to moment like gameplay and like a bigger world or story to explore. And for me, that was God of War.
Boy.
Yeah, and again, this is also among my biggest surprises because it came out of nowhere for me. I kind of disliked this series. I never played it myself. Maybe I did for like a little bit at a friend's house, but it looked boring before, just a sort of beat 'em up game in the past. But this game, to me, like it just combines so many things together. I like the action minute to minute in the game. It's fun. The story is interesting. It keeps you. And then there's this whole other RPG element, which honestly, you do have to seek out a little bit, like after the main story is done. Like there's a lot there that you can do that you don't need to. And when I did that, like I'm just like, all right, I need to get these things to level up my gear because I'm going to need to face these ridiculous bosses, the Valkyries, which are like so designed to be a post-game sort of challenge. I think like you shouldn't really bother with them during the main game. But and then you find out that you can like get like Thanos's gauntlet, not really, but like sort of. If you have all certain things together, you put things together, and that's when the RPG elements actually matter against like these most ridiculous sort of bosses in the game. And it just there's so much more, and it's one of those games where I'm upset there's no DLC for it because
there's another game where you wanted more and they just didn't enough.
More, but in the end, like it was a beefy bit of time I spent in that game exploring everything, and I didn't quite 100% because there's some dumb little things to pick up here and there, but I'm close, and I don't need to do that last part. But to me, like I liked it enough where I did like all of the side missions and all of the optional bosses, like all that. I did that up, and I'm thinking even now about doing a new game plus because there's just new things going on with that, a new resource. So it hit like the RPG, the exploration, the story, the action, and just looking great for me. And the world actually was pretty interesting. The little light puzzle aspects of the environment with the chests. It reminded me a little bit of the Arkham series where it makes the environment like matter in a way, even though it seems a little tedious and stupid. It also makes things kind of matter when you're like looking at the environment. So I really liked it.
Corey, your number one.
My number one was who are we kidding? God of War.
I was like, wait a minute. What are you gonna say right now? Bullshit on that.
What's coming in from left field?
No, I was gonna throw out. Like, I was trying to think of like what's like the worst game I can think of other than. But then I was like, I can't think of anything right now. But God of War. It's very similar to what you guys have already mentioned. Like the combat for me is some of the most fun I've had like in a video game in a long time. I just loved how that combat worked. Like you said, like the RPG elements were there. They weren't over the top. You could ignore them if you wanted to, but if you really wanted to get into it,
but you could.
Yeah, if you really wanted to get into it, you could really like change up the style of game you had. Like you can, hey, I want to have a more like melee focused, or I want to have a more ranged focused. I want to, and then you get your your chaos blades or whatever. I forget what they're called exactly, but like you get those like chain blades things again, and that just opens up way more combinations for you to have, and just the combat is so great. And then you're throwing in this kid. And he actually is useful. It's like, what's going on here? Like, he's actually going to help you and like be a part of like the combat mechanics of this game.
His stun damage was awesome for me.
So like just combat, like gameplay wise, like regardless of like graphics and story, combat wise, this game elevated it to like almost the top immediately just for that. But then you put on the way that the game looks, like the game is, like you said, Jim, the best looking game this year. And then the story was decent, like, and I liked the different elements of the Norse mythology there, and I liked the characters that they brought in. Obviously, some points were like, okay, you didn't like this. You could have resolved this a little differently, but at the same time, it's like, all right, it makes sense. It's fine. Like, this is what these characters do. It's in their nature. Even though it was a lot of repetitive bosses, I felt like every time I fought them, it was like fun. It was just,
if there's like one thing I really didn't like, it was a certain like a couple of the subsets of bosses were kind of
the giants over and over again.
Yeah, the troll. Like it's like, oh, you're about to fight the gatekeeper of hell. Like, oh shit,
it's always the same. Like the death ending sequence, or whatever. So that was like a disappointment, but at the same time, it was still always a lot of fun to go there and to fight those. It was just again, just for me, it was just about the fun factor, and I had the most fun with that game.
All right, anticipated games. Tony, most anticipated game for next year or for this year?
Mine, it's kind of like this year.
It's really kind of tough. This was tough. Yeah,
tough because Sony. Obviously, 2018 was one of Sony's best years by far. I think it's like I don't think Last of Us 2 is coming this year. I'm still
not doing it. Yeah, I'm not doing it on my list.
Microsoft doesn't have anything on their slate that interests me.
I mean, Ghost of Tsushima, that's not coming out this year, right?
No, so I don't think so.
I think that is, but we'll see.
I don't think
so. Wow. Okay.
No, I do think it is. Yeah, I do. But for me, it's going to be Fire Emblem 3 Heroes, just because.
Close to putting it on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Fire Emblem. I love that strategy. And it was supposed to come out last year. It was one of the things that pushed back, and I think the delay can only help make it an even better product. And just excited to see Fire Emblem in HD again. We're just or for the first time ever. Let me say that. So yeah.
So wait, just before I go on with my list, it's not Metroid Prime 4 for you because our bet's still going, and I get more of a chance because you don't think it's coming. You don't think it's coming this year.
I don't. I think it has a very slim chance, but Fire Emblem,
if it goes into 2020. I got a chance if it goes into 2020.
You got a chance.
Yeah. So my most anticipated is the Fallen Order Star Wars from Respawn, which now is in massive jeopardy after the news we've heard today. And again, this mirrored my movie list: Episode 9, Star Wars, and Game of the Year, Movie of the Year, Spider-Man. I don't know how that worked out, but it did. So I loved what Respawn did with Call of Duty. They made their own Call of Duty with Bex, and it was awesome. And
Titanfall. Was it Titanfall?
With Titanfall, yeah. And they made it even better with Titanfall 2. And they made a single-player game in Titanfall 2 that was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
So good.
And so what they could do with Star Wars, I can't wait. And so, I believe it will be this year. I really do. Unlike Last of Us, unlike Cyberpunk, I just believe that will be out this year. So, that's my most anticipated. Mike?
I probably do think Last of Us, but I don't care about that game that much. Yeah. It will come out this year. I'm actually going to go with, although I'm still a little hesitant, I don't know if I believe it either because it came out of nowhere, but Outer Worlds is going to be my most anticipated.
Yep. Interesting.
Because, that appeared, and just the idea of a sort of more focused
RPG.
Fallout in space type of thing from the people who seem to have a good handle on it, a better handle now than Bethesda, it seems. It's real exciting to me, and it also has a little bit of BioShock vibe to it too, which I also like. So, and it's supposed to come this year, so that instantly jumps to the top of my list.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that one myself, but
Corey, what's yours?
If I believed that the Sony games would come out, I would have chosen one of them.
Yeah,
Ghost of Tsushima being the one that I think
I agree with you on that one. I think that would be great too.
But I don't believe they're coming this year. So I picked the game that I do believe is coming, and that's Gears 5. I think
I believe Microsoft will launch that game. They actually just tweeted that today. They actually mentioned there will be coming out in 2019. I almost put that on my list when I saw that news, but I'm like, no, I got to stick with Star Wars and Respawn. I was just really psyched for that game.
I mean, Star Wars.
But, you and I will be playing Gears 5 co-op, I'm sure.
Gears is one of my favorite franchises on the Xbox in general, and I did like what they did with 4.
4 got Four story got really good, and then it just abruptly ended. So I'm like, I'm looking forward to 5.
As soon as you're all right, now it's we're getting ready to go here, and then it's the game's over.
Here's the credits. I think they did a good job with 4. Story wise, and I had a lot of fun there, and it looks like they're going to be even more ambitious with this game. And unfortunately it does look like they're going to be pulling away from the they took a player out of it. It was 3-player in 4, and I think they're going to even make it smaller in this one. It looks like it's going to be a 2-player at most. But I like that. I like that they're going story focused because we can always do the Halos with the multiplayer stuff. So definitely really excited to see what they do with Gears 5. Awesome. All right, I think that's going to wrap up of the year. So just to recap our top 5s, mine will be my list. It was let's go way back here. Into the Breach, Shadow of the Colossus, Red Dead, God of War, Spider-Man. Tony, what was yours?
Celeste, Dead Cells, Hollow Knight, Spider-Man, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
All right, and Mike?
Soul Calibur 6, Smash Brothers Ultimate, Red Dead 2, Spider-Man, and God of War.
And Corey?
Cheated a little bit with Xenoblade. And Destiny Forsaken, Dead Cells, Spider-Man, and God of War.
All right. So there's our top 5 each of the year. Thank you for listening. Write us podcast@geek.net. Let us know what you thought of the previous year's games. What's your most anticipated? Let us know. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube. Hi, and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Tune in to our Gamecast coming up next week. We got a lot of news to talk about. There's been some bombshells dropped. I think that's we've mentioned a little bit on this podcast, but there's a lot of other ones too that we didn't mention. So we'll be talking about that next week. So much that we pasted the news in already into our sheets. We don't forget to mention it next week. Yep. That's how big these things are. Tune in next week. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook as well. Thanks again. Hope you like it.